G'day. If you're pondering what it might cost to do every single race in 2025 in absolute luxury and style, I have the answer for you. Formula One is an expensive sport, and in 2025 we'll be going to 22 different countries for 24 races from March 13 to December 7, and I imagine that few people will do every single race. But let's say you're a millionaire or perhaps even a billionaire. You've just sold your business, you've got a whole lot of time on your hands and a lot of money. This is what you could spend for your year of F1 indulgence. And yes, I know that probably less than 1% of the people watching this video would be able to afford this. But don't despair, because at the end of this video, I'll run through a cheap option to attend all of those races. First up, let's look at accommodation. Now, I'm going to assume that you're in race cities for 4 nights. You're going to come in on a Thursday, you're going to leave on a Monday. So you're going to need 4 nights accommodation for each of the 24 races at 5-star hotels. But I've taken an average per nightly rate because some cities will be cheaper than others. For example, Budapest is pretty darn good value for 5 stars. But at the other end of the scale, you could spend 3 times that much, say, in Jeddah at the Shangri-La. For some events like Spa, I've taken into account the De La Source Hotel, which is right on the track. But at other venues like Austin, I've taken accommodation in the city. I've worked out an average of $950 US per night for these 5-star hotels. That adds up to $91,200. But hang on, there's going to be some more accommodation, because for some races, which are back-to-back, you probably won't go back to your home base. So then there are another 39 nights, but they won't be at the high peak season rate. They'll be at perhaps a shoulder rate, so I've budgeted those at $450 a night. So that's 135 nights for $108,750. Now, you'll be doing it nicely. You'll be staying in some gorgeous rooms, beautiful service, and I've included breakfast in all of those rates. Now, just quickly, if you're at the recent Italian Grand Prix or you're watching on television, you'll know that the post-race track invasion is mind-blowing. It's so iconic. Well, I've done a panorama print. Look at this. 7 images, high res, all stitched together to produce this stunning large format print. Every person in this image is visible. So are the drivers and the dignitaries on the podium. It comes in 3 sizes, on canvas, rolled in a tube, sent to you for mounting, and you can pick one up right now at kimellman.com. Go to the shop, click on Panorama Prints and order yours now. Or wait till the end of the video and click on the link in the description below. You'll be absolutely thrilled. Now, I should say that some tracks like Suzuka, Spielberg and Imola, no 5 stars anywhere nearby. So you're going to be taking a trip to and from the track. Now, in my calculations, I haven't given you a car for Monaco, Singapore, Baku or Las Vegas, because in those cities you don't need one. You are staying so close to the track that you can walk, and having a car in somewhere like Singapore is a complete waste of time. What type of car will you have? You'll have something comfortable, perhaps a big SUV, and I've budgeted US $200 a day, times by 20 races, times by 4 days, $16,000. Oh, and then you'll need parking, and that can be crazy pricing at many of these cities, so I've budgeted $100 a day, and that includes parking at the track and parking back at the hotel. $8,000 in total. And of course, you'll need some fuel for your car, so I've budgeted $100 per event. All these prices, by the way, in US dollars. Some places like Bahrain, you'll pay hardly anything, and then in Europe, you'll pay crazy money. Now, you will need to eat, and I've budgeted $130 a day. Now, that really is only for your dinners, because breakfast will be included in your hotel rate, lunches will be included for the track days that you're there, and bear in mind, you'll be eating the very best food from some of the best caterers in the world, and plenty to drink. So I've budgeted on 94 days at 5-star restaurants and 2 meals at In-N-Out Burger, because you just won't want to miss it. So in total there, $16,160. Luckily, your 5-star hotels will have a gym to work off some of that food that you'll be inputting. Now, at this point, let me throw in a couple of bizarre extras that you, being a very wealthy traveller, will probably want to take advantage of. In Japan, getting to the track is a nightmare if you're staying at a 5-star hotel, so you may want to consider upgrading to helicopter transfers. That'll be $12,000 for your 3 days. In Monaco, Amber Lounge, yes, you'll want a great table there for 20 guests, $66,000, or even more in Singapore, $91,000. And in Las Vegas, you'll probably want to head out to one of the great nightclubs there, and Omnia is right up there, and you can probably budget $30,000 there. But of course, you will need a lot of friends to tag along with you, but if you're spending that sort of money for that sort of nightlife, you will have plenty of friends. Next up, let's get on to flights. Now, I have spent hours and hours researching what it might cost you to travel first class, where possible, because some flights, certainly intra-Europe, they only have business. So let me go through what I've discovered. Now, I've priced these fares out of 3 different cities: London, New York, and Sydney. Now, I've done this research mid-August, and obviously for flights too far into next year, I've had to use dates that aren't real, but this will give you a rough idea. Season starts off with a double header, Melbourne and China. You'll have 3 nights in between those races that you're going to have to pay for. Then come back for a triple header, Suzuka, Bahrain, and Jeddah. Next up, it's a standalone with Miami. Very cheap for those out of New York, very expensive for those coming from Australia. And when I've picked flights, I've looked for reasonable convenience with reliable carriers. In May, we have a triple header, heading first to Imola, then Monaco and Barcelona. There's no direct flights between Milan and Monaco and Barcelona. So what I've done is I've budgeted for a private jet for you, because you'll probably want to take a private jet because you are so wealthy, and I've budgeted those in there at about $12,000 US. And remember, you can take a couple of friends along with you at that rate. The next race is a standalone to Canada, and then Spielberg and Silverstone back to back. But if you're doing this exercise like I did, you'll come across these bizarre anomalies. For instance, if I just go and price on Google Flights a one-way flight back from London to New York, it's throwing up $21,000. But if I go and put a return date in of 11 days later, look at the price, $8,000. And of course, you just don't travel on the return journey. And those prices are in Australian dollars. Continuing on, we have Spa and Budapest back to back, and then head home for the summer break. The second part of the season is just 10 races. First off, we're off to Amsterdam and then Monza, then home before we head to Baku and Singapore back to back, and then a double header, Austin and Mexico City, and Brazil. Our final standalone is Las Vegas, followed by a double header to end the season in Doha and then Abu Dhabi. So tally up all of those airfares and it comes to a whopping $129,712. That's if you're coming from London. If you're flying out of New York, it's $169,309. And out of Australia, nearly $250,000 US. But you'll be travelling well, and you'll be in the air a heck of a long time. But are airfares your biggest cost? No. Your race tickets are, because you'll be wanting the very best packages at each of the races. They won't be grandstand seats, they will not be general admission. You'll be getting the finest food and beverages and the very best spots in the paddock. Now, some races are more expensive than others, but I've budgeted on 20 races with the Legends package. That's where you actually get to spend a whole day in the paddock on your own. It's not a guided tour. You'll also get top-end food and beverages, pit walks, you'll be able to go to the podium to see the top 3 up there celebrating the race, and you'll be rubbing shoulders with other multi-millionaires. But that's only 20 races. What are the other 4? Well, I've budgeted F1 Garage. Now, those can be as much as $39,000, but I've averaged those 4 extra races with F1 Garage at $34,000, so the grand total for your tickets will be $396,000. Of course, you're going to be away for a heck of a long time, 135 days at least. So maybe you're going to need to take a friend with you, and the prices I've given you here for tickets and airfares, you'll have to double. But I haven't assumed that yet. And are there any other extras I've included? The answer is yes. Visas and phone and data, and I've budgeted for about $3,000 for both of those. So what does that all add up to? Without the airfares, $554,910. Now, you London people, you'll be paying with your airfares $684,000. New Yorkers, about $724,000. And Aussies from Sydney, just shy of $800,000 US for the whole season. And if you want the helicopter transfers and those 3 big nights out, add another $200,000. Oh, and there's also insurance, which you'll need being away so long, and I budgeted $5,000 for you. Now, clearly, this is a crazy amount of money. Has anyone done it? Well, I'm not sure. I think it's unlikely, but if you happen to win the lottery or you do sell your business, maybe this is something you would consider. But I did promise you I'd look at what the cheapest options would be. So let's start off with 4 nights accommodation in 2-star properties, sometimes even lower. I budgeted for $80 US a night, but I guess you'll need to be sharing with someone for that rate. Not staying in the city centre. Sometimes you're going to be a goodly long way from a track and the city. Yes, you'll need 4 nights. And I've even included some camping, perhaps in Austria and Silverstone. So that's $7,680 for accommodation for the race nights. You'll also need those 39 extra nights, and I've budgeted just $60 a night because you won't be in the absolute peak season, so add $23.40 to that. Now your flights, you'll save a fortune on the first class price because I've got you going economy everywhere, and sometimes I've even budgeted for train trips, in particular between, say, Imola and Monaco and Barcelona. So from London, just shy of $10,000. New York, $13,800-ish, and from Sydney, just over $19,000. And I should say that those figures for the flights will be overstated because if you're doing that much flying, there's every chance you'll be accumulating a crazy number of points. And for those travelling first class, you'll be spending on your credit card. So I imagine you'll probably get 2 or 3 first class flights a year, absolutely free of charge, because of your points. And for those flying economy, you might be lucky enough to pick up a couple of extra frequent flyer seats for using your credit card and travelling so much on airlines. Now, did I budget for rental cars for you? No. You'll be doing it on the cheap, so it'll be buses, trains, bikes, on foot. And I've budgeted $30 a day for the 4 days of each race weekend. It works out at $2,880. And then we have tickets. General admission, I've averaged it at $300 per race. Some races are cheaper, like Japan, say, and Spain. Others, like Vegas and Mexico, are quite expensive. $7,200 to attend 24 races. Food-wise, I've budgeted for just $30 a day. Modest. If you're wanting to have a few drinks, you'll need to bump that up. But that works out at $4,050 for the 135 days that you'll be away and needing to eat. And then finally, visas, $1,000, and insurance, an important consideration, $3,000. All of that minus the airfares adds up to $28,150. London people, add your airfares and you're up at $38,060. New Yorkers, just shy of $42,000, and Australians, $47,246. As you can see here, it'll cost you about 20 times more to go the very best, the most luxurious, the very best seats at the track compared with doing it on the cheap. But there's a market for both, and I'd be very keen to hear if anybody has done every race in a season. I have in my time found a couple of people. This man here, Taco Ketelaar, has done it. I don't know exactly what he spent, but it certainly would be up there. And I remember running into a fella going back many years ago on a train who was doing a blog, and he was going to every race. And what that does do for you is get you noticed by people in the paddock. And both of the people I refer to here have ended up being guests of teams for anywhere from a few days to a number of races. One thing's for sure, I'll be doing every race next year, and thankfully, I don't have to stump up the cost of a ticket. If you've enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't done so, and become a member for a whole host of extras. A reminder too that you can pick up my signed F1 prints by drivers at kimelman.com, where you'll also find photo books of every race and every driver, and they'll be delivered to most countries around the world. And for a whole lot of extra stuff, have a look here. Thanks for watching, and stay passionate! Say loudly.
Loudly.
And that's the level I'll be talking at.